Hello students, today we will discuss about the environmental awareness, the chapter 4, and we are going to cover the first very important topic, that is India as a mega biodiversity nation, endangered and endemic species of India. Basically, India is very rich about the biodiversity. And that richness of India is categorized into four categories. The biodiversity hotspots of India is categorized into these four categories. The first one category is Himalaya. The biodiversity in Himalaya have a very great richness at the Himalayan region. Then the second one region, biodiversity hotspot in India, that is Indo-Burma region. Then Sunda land, that is the third one, biodiversity hotspot in India. And the fourth one segment of India's biodiversity hotspot, that is Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. A biodiversity hotspot basically is a biogeographic region with a significant reservoir of biodiversity that is threatened with destruction. An area is designated as a hotspot when it contains at least 0.5% of plant species as an endemic. There are 25 such hotspots of biodiversity on a global level, out of which two are present in India. These are Indo-Burma and Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. These hotspots, covering less than 2% of the world's land area, are found to have about 50% of terrestrial biodiversity. When we think about the Himalayan biodiversity hotspots, then it includes the entire Himalayan region. That picture shows the entire Himalayan region. Some part of entire Himalayan region is falling in Pakistan, Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, China, and Myanmar. That is the first one, biodiversity hotspot of India. The Himalaya hotspot is home to the world's highest mountains, including Mount Everest. The mountains rise abruptly, resulting in a diversity of ecosystems that range from alluvial grasslands and subtropical broadleaf forests to alpine meadows above the tree line. Vascular plants have been recorded at more than 6,000 meters. The hotspot is home to important populations of numerous large birds and mammals, including vultures, tigers, elephants, rhinos, and wild water buffaloes. In case of Himalayan biodiversity hotspot, there is a great human intervention. Despite their apparent remoteness and accessibility, the Himalayas have not been spared human-induced biodiversity loss. People have lived in the mountains of the Himalayas for thousands of years. In recent decades, greater access to the global market has increased the demand of natural resources in the area, encouraged both immigration from outside and movement within the region. As a result, the populations are growing in the most productive ecosystems, which are also some of the richest in biodiversity. Today, remaining habitat in the Himalaya is patchy. The steadily increasing population in the hotspot has led to extensive clearing of forests and grasslands for cultivation and widespread logging. Both legal and illegal logging often occurs on extremely steep slopes, resulting in severe erosion. Although cultivation has a general upper limit of about 2,800 meters on slopes exposed to monsoons, people farm crops such as barley, potato, and buckwheat at high elevations in the inner valleys. The Himalayan land is also often cleared in the summer months for livestock. The use of fire to clear land poses an additional threat to forest land. In addition to habitat loss and degradation, which had led to perhaps no more than 25% of the original vegetation in these hotspots. Still intact, poaching is a serious problem in the Himalayan mountains, with tigers and rhinoceros hunted for their body parts for traditional Chinese medicine, while snow leopards and red pandas are sought for their beautiful pelts. Other threats to biodiversity and forest integrity, including mining, the construction of roads and large dams, and population due to the use of agrochemicals. That is the very great intervention, human intervention at the Himalayan biodiversity. Then the next one biodiversity, that is Indo-Burma biodiversity. That region shows the Indo-Burma biodiversity. Indo-Burma encompassing more than 2 million kilometers per acre of tropical Asia. Indo-Burma is still revealing its biological treasures. Six large mammal species have been discovered in the last 12 years. Basically, this hotspot also holds remarkable endemism in freshwater turtle species, most of which are threatened with extinction due to over-harvesting and extensive habitat loss. Bird life in Indo-Burma is also incredibly diverse, holding almost 1,300 different bird species, including the threatened white-eared night heron and grey-crowned croises and the orange-necked partridge. The Indo-Burma hotspot encompasses 2 lakh 2 crore 3 lakh 73,000 kilometers square of tropical Asia east of the Ganges, formerly including the Himalaya chain and the associated foothills of Nepal, Bhutan, and India. The Indo-Burma hotspot has now been more narrowly redefined as the Indo-Chinese subregion. The hotspot contains the lower Mekong catchment. It begins in eastern Bangladesh and then extends across northwestern India, south of the Brahmaputra river, to encompasses nearly all of Myanmar, part of the southern and western Yunnan province of China. The Indo-Burma region includes entire northwestern India except Assam and Andaman group of islands. The group of islands is Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and southern India. Much of India-Burma is categorized by distinct seasonal weather patterns. During the northern winter months, dry, cool winds blow from stable continental Asian high-pressure system, resulting in a dry period under clear skies across much of the south, center, and west of the hotspot. As the continental system weakens in spring, the wind direction reverses and area masses forming the southwest monsoon pick up moisture from the seas to the southwest and bring abundant rains as they river over the hills and mountains. A wide diversity of ecosystem is represented in this hotspot, including mixed wet evergreen, dry evergreen, deciduous, and mountain forest. In case of Indo-Burma region or Indo-Burma biodiversity, there is also a very great human impact. Indo-Burma is one of the most threatened biodiversity hotspots due to the rate of resource exploitation and habitat loss. Only about 5% of natural habitats remain in relatively persistent condition, with another 10 to 25% of land is damaged but ecologically functional condition. Indo-Burma was one of the first places where humans developed agriculture and has a long history of using fire to clear a land for agriculture and other familiar needs. The need for agricultural products has only increased in recent years with the expansion of both human population and markets. This area has contributed to widespread forest destruction. Tree plantation have replaced large areas of lowland forest, while coffee, tea, vegetable crops and sugarcane plantation threaten mountain and hill forest. Other threats to forests including logging, mining of gems and ore, firewood collection, and charcoal production. That type of human intervention creates the Indo-Burma as a as a biodiversity hotspot. Then the third one, that is Sunda lands. It includes Nicobar group of islands, Nicobar group of islands as well as Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, and Philippines. The spectacular flora and fauna of Sundaland hotspot are succumbing to the explosive growth of industrial forestry in these islands and to the international animal trade that claims tigers, monkeys, and turtle species for food and medicine in other countries. Populations of orangutan found only in this hotspot, orangutan found only in this hotspot, are in dramatic decline. Some of the last refuges of two Southwest Asia rhino species are also found on the islands of Java and Sumatra. Like many tropical areas, the forests are being cleared for commercial uses. Rubber, oil palm, and pulp production are three of the most detrimental forces facing biodiversity in the Sundaland. The Sundaland hotspot covers the western half of the Indo-Malaysian archaeological area, and it is dominated by two of the largest islands in the world. More than a million years ago, the islands of Sundaland were connected to the mainland Asia. As sea levels changed during the Pleistocene, this connection periodically disappeared, eventually leading to the current island isolation of the islands. The Sundaland is bordered by three hotspots. The boundary between Sundaland hotspot and the Indo-Burma hotspot to the northwest is here taken as the Tangar-Patni line, which crosses the Thailand-Malaysia border. In case of Sundaland, there is also a very great human intervention. There is also a very great human impact. And therefore, the Sundaland is also categorized as a biodiversity hotspot. The most significant threat facing Sundaland's biodiversity is forest destruction. Most deforestation has occurred in just the last 3 decades as a result of commercial logging and major agricultural projects in combination with the government policies and small scale agriculture. Some of the threats to the region's forest include rubber production, pulp production, and commercial and illegal logging. In Sumatra, illegal and unsustainable logging and non-timber forest product extraction are widespread. North America, Europe, and Japan, the military and police are sometimes involved, are paper industries which obtain most of their wood from forests rather than plantations. Then the next one category, the biodiversity hotspot in India, that is Western Ghats. That is the Western Ghats of India, categorized as a biodiversity hotspots. The Western Ghats faced with tremendous population pressure. The forests of the Western Ghats and Sri Lanka have been dramatically impacted by the demands for timber and agricultural land. Remaining forests of the Western Ghats are heavily fragmented. In Sri Lanka, only 1.5% of the original forest remain. Population levels are also applying increased stress on the fringes of protected areas where many farms, lodgers, and poachers use the resources illegally. Due in part to the varying effect of the yearly monsoons and the high mountain regions, this hotspot is home to a rich endemic assemblage of plants, reptiles, and amphibians. The western Ghats of southern western India and the highlands of southern western Sri Lanka, separated by 400 kilometers, are strikingly similar in their geology, climate, and evolutionary history. The Western Ghats, known as locally as the Sahyadri Hills, are formed by the Malabar Plains and chain of mountains running parallel to the India's western coast, about 30 to 50 kilometers inland. They cover an area about 1,60,000 km per square and stretch for 1,600 km from the country's southern tip to Gujarat in the north. Sri Lanka is a continental island separated from southern India by 20-meter deep Palk Strait. The island, some 60,000 km per square in size, has been repeatedly connected with India between successive interglacial, most recently until about 7,000 years ago by a land bridge up to about 140 kilometers wide. The Western Ghats in India also impacted due to the human intervention. Extremely high population pressure in both countries of these hotspots have seriously stressed the region's biodiversity. There are more than 1 billion people in India and almost 20 million in Sri Lanka. Nearly 50 million people occur in the hotspot overall. At a density of 260 people per kilometer per square, one of the highest hotspots in the world. It is likely that no more than about 25% of extent of original native vegetation remains in relatively persistent condition. The forests of the Western Ghats have been selectively logged and highly fragmented throughout their entire range. That is the human intervention in the Western Ghats as well as in the Sri Lanka. When we think about the endangered and endemic species in India, then we continue with some observations. In case of India, about 47,000 of species of plants in our India and 7,000 are the endemic. Out of 47,000 of species of plants are endemic. In India contains 172 species of animals considered globally threatened by International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. These are the certain observations are observed by IUCN. As many of 3,000 to 4,000 higher plants may be under high degree of threats in India. These are the certain observations made by the IUCN. About 6,000, about 62% amphibians and 50 to 50% lizards are endemic to the Western Ghats, which shows that there is a high degree of endemic species in India. Thank you.